Are plants evil? Of course not. They are just trying to survive, just like us. If somebody came with the scissors to cut your feet off, you wouldn't like that, and they don't like it either. Because the same way you need your feet to walk, they need their roots to survive. They need their stems to be alive. They need their leaves to catch the energy from the sun. And that is right. To live, a plant needs all of this. Things like carrots and beets and turnips, which we call vegetables, are not vegetables, they're roots. Things like the majority of greens and the leafy greens, we think they're food, they're vegetable like foods. They are not. They are stems, they are leaves. Cinnamon is actually a bark of the trunk. They need that bark to protect themselves from all sorts of insects and whatnot. Also, in addition, when the sun doesn't come up, when water is scarce, there are power reserves, which we call tubers. And if you look at the ground, tubers either grow or they go small because they are power reserves. They are like a power bank, and so they don't need it on their day-to-day, but they might need it. So they don't want any animal like a rodent or something that goes underground and that eats it, because they need it in order to survive in times of need. For the species to survive, it needs for the seeds to end up in the ground intact, so they don't want you to eat it. But there are ways they want you to deal or not deal with the seeds. You see, grains die, and they want their children to grow up in the same place they die. But fruit trees take a long, long life, and they want their children to grow up, to get born far away, and thus they make fruits. You see, plants don't need fruits eventually when they're ripe, when it's time. Before it's time, the seed is not ready, but when the fruit is ready means the seed is ready. They want you to eat that plum, that papaya, and that you go poop the seeds far away. You're not supposed to chew the seeds, you're supposed to just swallow them, because they want the seeds to survive. And many times a plum is a very big seed, so you probably just spit it out a few meters away that you grab the fruit. But the papaya has so many seeds that if you happen to chew on a few of them, the papaya tree doesn't mind, because some will survive your GI tract and you will poop them and enable them through fertilization to grow elsewhere. Things like squash, maybe cucumber, are also fruits, and so plants don't need this, but so they don't fill them with plant toxins. They fill these with toxins because they cannot run, and that's the only way they can protect themselves from getting eaten and dying. The seeds as well. So this is a survival mechanism, and so you should not be eating this, but you can eat this. True nuts, maybe hazelnut. I know people who are doing carnivore who can eat chocolate with zero problems. Low heavy metal chocolate, even with a little bit of sugar. I know people who can do it perfectly well. Maybe it has to do with it not being a seed and it actually being a true nut. There are probably 100 times more examples. You do your search. I know some people eat, for example, pumpkin flowers, no problems. Fallen leaves, once they fall, it's the different story, because the plant no longer needs it. If it needed it, it wouldn't let it go. And the distinction is the plant needs it or the plant doesn't need it. If the plant doesn't need it, it will let it go. It will enable you to just take it out, or it will literally drop it to the floor when this you need to cut it off. And so it's the same way as you asking me, can I cut your fingers? No, you cannot. But if you want to take my nails, sure. That's the thing. We have things inside of us which we can trim and we don't need, just like our hair and nails, but others we do need. And plants are exactly the same. And so my conclusion of today is, if you do a plant-based diet, because I don't think you can base yourself on just this, maybe you can, maybe I'm completely wrong. But I mean, when you go on these, and grains are here, you feel awful, especially if you don't cook things well enough. If you cook them well enough, you might not feel the effects enough, but you will not be perfectly well, especially in terms of emotional health. But if you go animal based, you will feel wonderful. You see, you don't need to cut this completely off in order to go carnivore. You can do carnivore, and one or other time you might eat some fruits, just like our ancestor did. You might eat some tree nuts, just like our ancestor did. You might eat some flowers, maybe even some fallen leaves if they taste good. Eventually, you might even eat some honeycomb. Eventually, but the base of your diet will be meat, just like our ancestors did. And if you want to go this route for survival or for mouth pleasure, make sure you ferment those grains, just like our ancestors, not like ancestors in terms of hunter-gatherers, but the early agriculture humans always fermented a lot of things. And so make sure that if you do this, you do them properly so that you don't lose health. And these are probably mostly fine if you eat them once in a while, and maybe even every week. So make sure you enjoy yourself, just like if you were a children. If you were a children, you'd probably not eat this because this is not so tasty. You probably not eat this because it's not so tasty. Maybe you just put a little bit of cinnamon in your mouth because it's kind of pleasurable, kind of sweet. You probably wouldn't be eating any sort of greens or leafy greens. You might eat one or other seed or some fermented grains because they taste good. But certainly not raw, because you can't even chew them. Fruits, sure, every children loves fruits. Hazelnuts, I think they probably enjoy them. Flowers, I don't know. Fallen leaves, I imagine not. So I think even though there is plenty of evidence of people doing full carnivore, that it is the best of the best, I mean, probably consuming this is not going to worsen your health tremendously. I imagine. I could be completely wrong. If you learned or relearned something from this video, please leave a like. You know somebody who can benefit from this, send them the link. You want to check more content like this about body or about mind or about home, I make those as well. Thank you.